Prepare yourself, because the signs are already happening. You're not imagining the strange shifts inside you, the mental fog that comes and goes, the sudden desire to isolate, the quiet need for something real, something deeper. The truth is, spiritual awakening doesn't always arrive with lightning bolts and visions. Sometimes it's silent, subtle, hidden in your daily life. You think you're just tired or burned out or growing distant from the world. But what's really happening is this: your soul is beginning to awaken, and your old life can't hold your new energy anymore. Today, we'll uncover 5 powerful signs that you're experiencing a spiritual awakening without even knowing it. Watch closely, because by the end of this video, you'll start seeing your life very differently. At first, you think it's just burnout. You tell yourself you'll bounce back after a weekend or maybe after the next goal is reached. But it keeps happening. The music you love suddenly feels empty. The social events that once energized you now feel like a chore. Even hobbies and passions you once clung to, none of them spark the same fire inside. This isn't depression. It's spiritual detachment from a life that no longer matches your energy. When your soul begins awakening, it slowly removes your interest from the things that were built by your former self. Your conditioned identity. It feels like a slow, emotional withdrawal from everything that wants to find you. And here's what's terrifying and beautiful at the same time. You don't yet know what comes next. You're standing in between versions of yourself, and that empty space in between. That's the real awakening. That's the space where your authentic self is quietly being rebuilt without the noise, without the validation, without the old distractions. If you're currently in this stage, it's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something sacred is unfolding. The person you're becoming can no longer be satisfied with things that numb the truth. Your energy is preparing for alignment, and that process often starts by removing what no longer fits. It doesn't happen suddenly. It creeps in slowly. First, you start feeling drained after being around people. Then you begin canceling plans, not because you're upset with anyone, but because something inside you feels tired in a way you can't explain. Eventually, you find yourself avoiding crowds, skipping group chats, and choosing silence over social stimulation. At first, you worry something might be wrong with you. Maybe you're becoming antisocial. Maybe you're depressed. But this isn't about mental health. It's about spiritual alignment. When a spiritual awakening begins, your energy field becomes hypersensitive. You start noticing emotions that aren't yours. You feel the tension behind people's smiles. You can sense lies without proof. Your body and spirit are no longer willing to tolerate environments that feel off or inauthentic. And so your soul begins asking for space. It wants less noise, less chaos, less performance, and more truth. You start finding peace in the quiet places. Maybe you retreat to nature or start spending more time in your room. You crave those moments when no one needs anything from you, where your energy isn't being pulled in every direction. Because in that space, something deeper starts happening. You begin hearing your own thoughts again. You begin noticing your breath, your heartbeat, your feelings without the interference of everyone else's expectations. And what most people miss is that this stage of solitude isn't loneliness. It's spiritual protection. Your soul is creating a safe container to heal, to expand, and to rediscover who you are beneath the layers of roles, labels, and noise. You may even begin pulling away from relationships that once defined you, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Because sometimes to grow, you have to go quiet. You have to go inward. You have to be willing to disappoint others in order to finally meet yourself. So if you're in that phase where your phone is on silent, your presence has become limited and your world feels smaller, it's not the end of your social self. It's the beginning of your spiritual one. You're not disappearing. You're realigning. And the people meant for your next chapter will meet you. That you're in the middle of something mundane, washing dishes, scrolling your phone, walking down the street. And then it happens. A surge of emotion floods your body. Sometimes it's sadness. Other times it's anger or nostalgia. So strong it steals your breath. You try to understand it, but there's no clear trigger. And that's what makes it so confusing. You ask yourself, where is this coming from? But deep down, you already know the feelings were always there. You're just finally feeling them. This is one of the most overlooked signs of a spiritual awakening. Emotional clearing. Your awakening isn't just a mental or spiritual process. It's also emotional. Every version of you that existed before this moment, the child who was silenced, the teenager who was judged, the adult who was betrayed, left behind. Energetic residue. It didn't disappear. It went into storage. And now, as your frequency rises, your soul is opening those storage rooms one by one. These emotions aren't breakdowns. They're releases. They're your body's way of flushing out the stuck energy that has kept you spiritually stagnant. Crying for no reason. That's healing. Random memories resurfacing. That's integration. Feeling everything more intensely than usual. That's because you're no longer numbing yourself just to cope. And it's not always tears. Sometimes it shows up as rage, frustration, or extreme sensitivity. You get irritated by things that never used to bother you. You feel exhausted after emotional outbursts. You're suddenly more empathetic to others' pain, but also more aware of your own boundaries. This is your emotional system, recalibrating to match your soul's evolution. The mistake most people make here is trying to fix it, trying to suppress the emotion, diagnose it, or escape it. But the awakening isn't asking you to escape. It's asking you to face it, to feel what your past self never had, the space or tools to process. And the more you allow it, the more space you create for something new to take its place. Clarity, peace, and authenticity. So if you find yourself crying during random songs, getting emotional over small moments, or breaking down without a reason, don't panic. Don't push it away. You're not broken. You're just releasing the version of you that had to carry too much for too long. And every tear, every wave is one step closer to remembering who you really are. There comes a moment often unexpected when you begin to see through the surface of everything. You're watching a conversation and suddenly feel like everyone's just playing a role. You hear someone say they're doing fine, but you feel the pain behind their smile. You start noticing how many people live on autopilot, chasing approval, following trends, doing what's expected without ever stopping to ask, is this really me? This is the part of spiritual awakening where your mental framework begins to unravel. You begin questioning the rules. You were taught to follow the life plan that once made sense. Get a job, buy a house, fit in, stay busy. Starts feeling suffocating. You realize that most of what you've been doing wasn't based on truth. It was based on programming. And once you see that, everything starts to shift. You might begin feeling detached from your job, your goals, or even your relationships. It's not because you don't care. It's because you can't lie to yourself anymore. Your soul is rejecting the illusion. You start valuing depth over convenience, meaning over performance. And even if you can't fully explain it, something inside you refuses to go back to the way things were. This is a difficult but necessary stage because it makes you feel like you're floating between two worlds, the one you're outgrowing and the one you're slowly building. You might feel isolated, misunderstood, even judged, but that's how you know it's real. Real awakening doesn't look like bliss. It looks like discomfort, clarity, and choosing truth even when it makes life harder, not easier. If you find yourself questioning everything, your purpose, your patterns, the world around you, it's not a breakdown. It's an upgrade. You're not becoming lost. You're finally peeling away the masks, the beliefs, and the unconscious. Just habits that once kept you asleep. And the more you question, the more you wake up. Not just mentally, but spiritually. Not just to the world, but to yourself. At first, it feels like loss. You're no longer chasing the friendships that used to mean everything. You're not forcing conversations that once felt essential. The goals you obsess over now feel strangely meaningless. And as much as you want to hold on, you don't have the same energy for it anymore. It feels like you're quietly letting go of parts of your life that once defined you. And it hurts, but it also feels honest. This is the spiritual awakening. Most people don't talk about the grieving phase because awakening isn't just about gaining clarity or finding purpose. It's about shedding, releasing, saying goodbye to the identities, attachments, and habits that were built on fear, survival, and approval. And that process doesn't always feel liberating. Sometimes it feels like heartbreak. You may begin stepping away from the version of yourself who always said yes. The one who tolerated disrespect. The one who lived for external validation. The one who stayed quiet to keep the peace. And each time you walk away from something unaligned, you wonder, how even am I without this? That question itself is the sign. You're not losing yourself. You're uncovering the real you. And people around you might not get it. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're making bad choices. But what they don't understand is that you're finally choosing your soul over the script. You're no longer willing to betray yourself to be accepted. You're no longer tolerating what drains you just because it's familiar. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means your frequency has changed. And what once felt like home now feels like a cage. And the moment you accept that, not just logically, but emotionally, you step into true freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to be exactly who you are without compromise. If you're feeling this pull right now, trust it. It's not destruction, it's alignment. And it means you're finally ready to live the kind of life that doesn't just look good from the outside, but feels real, honest, and sacred on the inside. Maybe now you're starting to realize it was never random. The fatigue, the emotional waves, the craving for silence, the disconnection from your old life. None of it was a coincidence. These once setbacks, they were signals, quiet, powerful signs that your soul has already begun waking up, even if you didn't have the words for it. Spiritual awakening doesn't always come with big flashes of enlightenment. Sometimes it comes in the form of walking away from things you once spoke to have. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car for no reason or not being able to explain why you feel so different all of a sudden. It's messy, it's lonely, it's sacred, but here's the truth. If any part of you resonated with these signs, you're not going crazy. You're evolving. And even though it feels like everything around you is falling apart, what's really happening is that you're falling inward, into truth, into self, into purpose. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of the real you. If you recognize yourself in this video, even just one sign, let it be known in the comments. Your experience might be the mirror someone else needs. And if you're in the middle of it, all right, now know this. You're not alone. We're awakening together. So if you're ready to keep discovering what your soul has been trying to tell you all along, don't just watch and leave. Subscribe because there's more to this journey and we're only just getting started.